So there's a few people we reached out to say some stuff about Pat. Maybe some funny stories, maybe something touching, probably not, but we'll see. So I reached out to a couple. I'm going to ask Tony to come first though, because he's super prepared. He's trying to ignore me.
He started working there too. The next place we went to was Prime Outlets, right? And then LPI, right? With Nancy Block, great woman. Terrible manager, but great woman. Then we went to Manpower, and now we're both in public service, right? That's true. He's a lawyer, and I'm a police officer. So I've known Pat for a long time. Pat, I mean, every idea he has is going to be the most exciting thing for a few days, and then it's move on to something else. Or the fish tanks. Yes. I was like, oh, we're getting fish. Guys, this is the coolest thing. I think the most recent one is beer.
I will make you go next.
Beer is the coolest thing right now.
Then come on. Where was one?
I'm trying to think.
And Glenn.
Yeah. And Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah. We first met Pat when he came into the church over at Lakeshore Tabernacle, and he was a long-haired, goofball hanging out with Tim Yarbrough. So that tells you something. But we kind of got attached to him right away. To be honest, when Pat said he was going to law school, I thought there was no hope of him actually finishing. Back in the day, me and Pat did a political blog called Pink Elephants on Parade.
That's right.
And, I think Pat wrote one blog in the 2.5 years that we were doing every week. And I wasn't much better, but no, it has been really great to know Pat. Those of you that know him well know he's kind of a quirky guy, and like was pointed out, he gets big ideas about things like how Lost is going to change society and social people and crazy things like that. But Pat is a great guy, and we're really proud of him. It is a pretty amazing feat to go through law school, having 4 kids, and working full time. I'm super proud of you, man, and it's good to be your friend.
Mainly embarrassing. I was thinking one story that I love so much about Pat was back in high school. As has been shared, Pat kind of has his flavor of the day that he's really excited about for a period of time. At one point, he was habanero peppers. And for those of you who knew him in high school, he would bring to school habanero peppers and then challenge other guys to eat them. And if they said no, they're not going to, then he would challenge their manhood and say, well, if you're not man enough, then fine, that's fine. So of course they have to do it. So I think no less than 2 or maybe 3 people ended up going to the nurse's office with mucus and phlegm and slime coming out of every facial orifice. It's just awful. And I think he might have gotten out of school detention because of that. It was threatened. It was threatened. Never carried out. Trump was all talk. So anyway, that was, and I always said no because I'm a very sensible person. And he couldn't challenge my manliness, so I'm like, I'm fine there. So, so I came back from school. I went away to school, came back, and said, you know what? I want to try a habanero with you. And he's like, are you serious? And he didn't want to do it because he's been down that road, and it's a very, very bad road. And so we like, let's do it. We're gonna go. We went to the store, got some habaneros. We got 2 things of milk just in case. And we drove to his old place of employment at the time. So he had to be there. So we're sitting there. We got our peppers in front of us. Okay, 1, 2, on 3 or after? 1, 2, 3. Took a bite. He bit his. I bit mine. I never had one before. He had multiple, so his body instantly revolts. And let's just say we didn't quite make it into to J. Crew at that time. He instantly grabbed the milk, sloshing everywhere. He feels like an utter failure. And I made sure he knew he was an utter failure at the time. And we never quite made it into J. Crew. So I will say that he wasn't always one that finished when he started. But this is the segue right here. But in this case, I'm so proud of you, Pat. This is a pretty monumental task that you set your mind to accomplish. You had a wonderful wife that was very supportive. kids were supportive. Everybody's on his team. I couldn't be more proud of him for carrying this out. So, unlike the habanero incident, he definitely carried this one through to completion. And could be more proud of him.
You ate it, honey.
Anyway, so it was me, David, Pat, and another guy who's not here. We went on this baseball trip, and I don't know, somewhere around, we're going to St. Louis, so we're gonna go see the Brewers and the Cardinals play. And around the state line, the Wisconsin-Illinois state line, for some reason we started arguing about the cause of the Civil War.
Yes.
And I took what's that?
Unresolved argument.
An unresolved argument at this point. I took the cause of righteousness, the cause of Abraham Lincoln, and the Union side. Pat was on the Confederate side, right? What's that? You were more on my side? Oh yeah. I thought you were kind of wavering back and forth.
That's
This is basically
Am
how
I
it went.
misremembering? Yeah, I guess I'm misremembering the story, so sorry. Anyway, the point being, so me, Pat, and this other guy, we were arguing amongst each other for the whole trip, and he would not stop. I mean, it was the whole
He was the one telling me, but what is a triangle? And I'd say something with 3 sides, and he'd say, if God wanted to make a 4-sided triangle, could he? And I'd say, yeah, he can do whatever he wants. But a triangle is 3-sided by definition. And so we would walk around the lake just talking about that, and that's how I think now. So that took me off. Anyway, but I had a lot of those conversations as like a young guy with Pat. He was just always challenging me to think and dream and look bigger. I'm going to steal one story from Mark Mueller, who couldn't be here, he had to leave. I got to go on a conference trip to California, and the O'Keefes and the Muellers were driving down PCH1. And Mark always tells the story best, but I'm going to try to do it justice.